All right, what's up, guys? My name is Matt Gardner. I also go by Roar, but today we're going to be speaking about why becoming an investor agent or working with investors as an agent can be so useful to you. So we'll kind of jump into the slides now, and we'll get on with it. Here's the title slide. Like I said, we're just going to be talking about why becoming an investor agent is beneficial to you if that's something you do want to pursue. If you're feeling stuck in your career, or maybe you're doing well, you just want to take it to the next level, or maybe you're a brand new agent and you're just not really sure where to start. I think working with investors can be a great avenue for any of the above, experienced or inexperienced agents. So we'll kind of jump into it from there. Let's see. So who am I, first of all, to be talking about this? So I'll give you a little bit of background about me, and then we'll jump into the content. We only have limited time today, so we're not going to dive super deep into the details, but I will get you as much content as I can. I do speak a little fast, and so please bear with me. If you need to slow down the video, it's the benefit of recorded content. You can go ahead and slow it down and follow along as you need to. First and foremost, here you can see I'm a family man, wife, 4 kids, and that's kind of my why, right? You always want to start with your why, and they truly are everything to me. My 4 kids are very young and busy, and so my life is quite chaotic with them, but it's a lot of fun. I'm a prior fighter pilot as well. I had the opportunity and the pure honor of flying fighter jets in the U.S. Air Force for 11 years. It was absolutely awesome. I got to fly the F-15E and the F-35, and I was an instructor in both of those jets as well. And it was an amazing ride. Honestly, for everyone who wanted to be a fighter pilot as a young kid, you totally should have, because it was everything you thought it would be and more. I absolutely love being a fighter pilot. And that career was awesome up until I was basically kicked out of the military. And the reason that I was forced out of the military, I say kicked out, forced out of the military, was because I had a surprise cancer diagnosis, basically. One day I was just walking up some steps as I got accepted to the Air Force equivalent of the Top Gun program for the newest fighter jet in the Air Force. And I was the youngest person to be accepted to this program. Super, super honored. I was like the top of the world of where I was like in my life. It was fantastic. And I was just walking up some steps in a hotel, and all of a sudden I was out of breath, and it was really strange. And I went to my flight doc the next day, and we did a scan of my chest. And next thing you know, I had 9 tumors inside of my chest. And over the course of the next 2 weeks, my life went from being on top of the world to being like thoroughly, thoroughly humbled. Had to get some heart surgery followed by chemotherapy. And you can see a picture of me there. That's when I was full, sick boy mode, no hair, full chemo, couldn't spend some nights with my kids because I was like radioactive, that whole type of thing. Luckily, that's behind me now. So I have eyebrows, I have hair again. Life's good. I'm in remission, and everything's good when it comes to the cancer piece. But the cancer did force me effectively out of the military. And while I was down doing chemotherapy, that's when I was introduced to real estate. And what I like to say, I was bit by the real estate bug. And I was bit as an investor first, but then also into the sales piece. And so I kind of jumped into real estate trying to do both avenues right at once. I wanted to be an investor, but I also wanted to be an agent. I had some sales background. I enjoyed sales. And so I was trying to take a risk as I left the military to support my family. And that's what I did. Jumped in and did both. As an investor, and what is the time frame here? Right now it's 2023. And I started all of this stuff basically in 2020. I diagnosed with cancer in 2018, still working military issues out, and I finally retired in 2020, went full-time in real estate in 2020. But since my cancer diagnosis and jumping into real estate as an investor, I've been lucky enough to now I own over 750 units. Some of those single family houses, some of those condos, some of those short-term rentals, long-term rentals, mobile home parks, RV parks. I own 10 or 11 different apartment complexes. We're developing another mobile home park now, and we're in the process of buying a business, a 100-year-old nut business, actually. So as an investor, I've had quite a broad experience in a short amount of time, and it's really been a fun ride on the investor side of things. And I've had a chance to really kind of get my hands dirty in a lot of different types of niches within the investor space, and it's been a lot of fun. But the way my investor career has been fueled has been primarily due to my income as an agent. And as an agent, jumping at that same time, it's been an awesome ride, I'll be honest with you. Now, like I said, I've been with the company now for just under 5 years. There's my 4 Icon trophies because I'm a 4-time Icon agent. Last year, I sold $50 million personally in real estate. The year before, I sold $50 million in real estate. The year before, I think it was like $30 million. And that's not even including what my team has sold. And so it's been a really fun ride. And so all this, not to boast or brag or anything, just to show you kind of who I am and the space that I'm coming from and why we want to speak about becoming an investor agent. And specifically today, like I said, I'm not going to be able to get into like all the weeds of why and the details of they can help you. I specifically want to focus on three main aspects of this space, and that's really how becoming an investor agent can help you from the knowledge perspective, how it can help you from your relationships perspective, and then overall how it can just help you in your business. And we'll kind of just touch on those three main topics. All right, so let's jump into it. So the first aspect to speak to is how can working with investors and being that investor agent help grow your knowledge, and why? Like, why do you even care about that? Now, the thing to consider here is realizing that most, I'll say, vanilla real estate agents, traditional residential real estate agents, they have their set of things they know, and they kind of get capped out. They put blinders on to a lot of aspects of real estate that don't necessarily apply to them. And they don't, I think a lot of people don't realize that it hurts them in the end. For a traditional real estate agent, maybe getting creative is using an FHA loan, or getting creative might be using a VA loan. But really, in my mind, as an investor agent, that's still like the vanilla conventional mindset. Anything like a VA loan, FHA loan, USDA loan, conventional purchases, all that stuff is relatively conventional and normal in my mind. But as an investor agent, your mind will be opened up to all of these different options. You're going to learn how to value not just a single property, but you'll learn how to value a portfolio of properties. You'll learn how to value other income producing assets, like I said, RV parks, Airbnb properties, short-term rentals, long-term rentals. What you name it, whatever type of real estate that produces income, you'll be able to start to learn how to value those things. You'll learn more acquisition techniques and disposition techniques that you might have not otherwise have learned by engaging with these investors. They'll teach you how they acquire and dispose of properties, and you might be able to learn some things that you can then bring into your business as well, or just leverage exactly what they're doing. You're also going to learn new lending techniques. If you're not familiar with a DSCR loan, or a debt service coverage ratio loan, it's a very useful loan for investors. There's hard money loans you'll learn about, and different outlets for hard money loans. You learn about private money loans and the difference between a private money loan and a hard money loan. And you'll learn about seller financing and all these sort of creative techniques to acquire properties that maybe you hadn't considered before, that a lot of people think, oh, that only applies to being an investor agent. But you'll learn quickly that these tools that you're kind of putting into your tool belt can really help you as a traditional, we'll say, vanilla residential agent. One quick example here. There's all sorts of ways to acquire properties, conventional purchases, but we can do loan assumptions, we can do seller financing purchases, or we can do purchases subject to the mortgage as well. As a listing agent, one time I was selling a property in Panama City Beach, Florida, and the property was roughly $1 million. We were under contract about a week prior to closing. The investor who was purchasing the property, again, I was representing the seller. The investor who was purchasing the property, they finally got their interest rate locked with the type of loan that they had 1 week prior to closing. And the interest rate that they had underwritten the deal to, they had underwritten it to like a 6.5% interest rate. But by the time they got their interest rate locked, the interest rate was at a 9.5%. And that difference in interest rate crushed their cash flow, crushed their ability to make the deal work as an investor in the deal. And so any vanilla agent who was representing them who didn't understand these different strategies, it would have been like, oh, well, that sucks. Interest rates blew up the deal. Sorry, let's move on with our life. But I thought creatively, and I said, hey, why don't we just try to sell this property subject to the current mortgage? Because the current mortgage that was in place was an interest-only loan at a 5.5%, versus what they were presented with was a 9.5% interest loan. It was a fixed rate over a 20-year mortgage. And so it was a crazy difference in debt servicing for the buyer. And in the end, we were able to make the sale work. So I talked to the buyer's agent, and I informed him, I educated him on the process and what this means. I informed my sellers, the risks, the rewards. It's not, it's never a perfect scenario when it comes to investing like these creative strategies. But as long as everyone is aware and we disclose the risks and rewards, then we're able to make deals happen. And so I was able to sell this property that otherwise probably would have fallen apart because I had that knowledge and understanding. The next thing you'll definitely learn, and as far as gaining your knowledge, is going to be your negotiation skills. It's one thing to negotiate like a vanilla deal with your normal kind of clients, and it's great, and it's good to have those skills. But as you start to work with investors, they're going to grind harder and harder on these different negotiation strategies, and they'll introduce you to different maybe educational outlets that you had not considered previously. One of my favorite books on negotiation is called "Never Split the Difference" by Chris Voss. Fantastic book if you've not read it. But it's one of those things where it's one thing to negotiate on behalf of your clients, but as you are as an investor agent start to invest yourself and your own money's in the deal, it becomes an entirely different world for you to invest, on behalf of yourself, on behalf of your own money. And it's different versus the emotional purchase of if you're representing yourself to go buy your own primary residence. That's one thing because you're emotionally attached and you're going to kind of bend as needed. But when you're purchasing a property as an investor for yourself and you're representing yourself, man, that's when you're really going to hone in on your negotiation strategies and realize, oh, maybe I didn't realize I was kind of weak here. I need to hold stronger. And you'll understand the perspective of your investors a little bit more as you start to take the role of an investor yourself. And the last piece is just really understanding that, the financial acumen your financial acumen will be increased as you've worked with more investors. And what I mean by that is, your ability to speak the language, the financial language of an investor is super important. And so as you get more experience working with investors, you'll be able to speak that language a little bit more. And that's not just like the traditional agent that understands how to calculate closing costs or how to calculate a mortgage payment, or, an agent that says, oh, you get great ROI on this property. I'm like, man, what are you talking about? Do you even understand what ROI is? Return on investment. And that is such a broad term. When someone just says you get great ROI, that shows me that they don't really understand what we're talking about, to be honest with you. I want you to be able to say things, like understanding the difference between an annualized ROI versus a cash on cash ROI. Like, what is the cash on cash return on investment? Because a lot of investors may care more about that. Other investors may care more about their IRR, or their internal rate of return. And you'll be able to understand these things and maybe calculate different cap rates or different, all sorts of different variables that investors are going to care about, and you'll be able to speak that language. And it's just going to help you more and more as you kind of just broaden your vocabulary and broaden your understanding within the real estate space. So one of the big benefits, like I said, the first big benefit I think of when I'm working with investors, or when people ask me why we should work with investors, is the fact that you're going to grow your knowledge within that space, and you'll become a better traditional real estate agent because of it. So that's the first aspect we'll talk to. The next thing that I think is super important to understand and to take away is, as you work with investors, the relationships with investors are so beneficial. I understand that follow-up is key in traditional real estate, but when you realize that most people don't buy and sell a house, every year, or within multiple houses within 1 year, it's typically a 5 to 7 year cycle, I think, on average, with a traditional kind of buyer when they sell and move up in their houses. So that's a long time to try to maintain a relationship with people and follow up and hoping that they use you again in 5 to 7 years when they go to sell. If you're in a military area, maybe you're lucky in the fact that the military move cycle is a little bit quicker, right? Maybe 2 to 4 years, but still that's 2 to 4 years of constant follow up to hope that they're going to use you again to list their house when you help maybe represent them as a buyer when they move to the area. And it's just a really long play there. I'm not saying don't do that traditional kind of mentality. All I'm saying is the benefit of working with investors is, you're still going to have that long-term relationship, but you're going to get these quicker repeat business. I had one of my early investors. They came on and they bought a $300,000 condo with me, and I was like, this is great. I'll represent any sale price. I'm happy. I'm not exclusively a luxury agent or anything like that. But it was great because they bought a $300,000 house. Condo, short-term rental property. And then 9 months later, they came around and said, hey, we want this one. They sent me a listing, and it was a $3.7 million listing. And so luckily, I treated them like I treat every other client, whether they're $1 million buyer or a $100,000 buyer. And, these buyers will sometimes surprise you, these investors who maybe just don't have a bunch of cash now. They're waiting to sell, or 1031 exchange. There's all sorts of different things going on. But this quicker repeat business is great. I had another buyer who came in, bought a $2.1 million house as a rental, did really well. And he's like, hey, let's do it again. 6 months later, he bought another $2.1 million house just down the street from it. So it's a really great kind of process, and understanding that investors are going to churn a lot quicker, whether they want to buy and then sell quickly, whether they're flipping or they're just, there to acquire properties. They're generally going to buy more often than your traditional buyer out there, or seller. Sometimes there's portfolios out there that they're looking to sell. All right. The next part is understanding that your market insights are gonna grow as you work with investors. And so what I mean by that is, it's one thing to kind of check the hot sheets on the daily basis or get a feel for what's going on in the market, but it's entirely different when you're engaging with these investors and they're telling you, what developments are happening and why it's happening, how the rents are shifting, or how the demographic is changing from in a certain area to a different area. And so as you engage with these investors, you're actually going to get a better understanding by engaging with them on the market. And so it's super beneficial for you, again, as a traditional agent, to at least be engaging conversationally with investors and just asking them, hey, what are you seeing in the market? Like, why are you focusing on this area? What is your thought process here? And you'll see kind of where trends are going, and you'll be able to have a much better market insight for how things are going along. And it's great. And along the same line is when you're offering market insights as an investor agent, try not to be the agent who just kind of openly sends out, hey, another listing, another pending, another sold. That doesn't really add value to your audience if your audience is investors. Your audience is going to care about things that impact them. And so if you can consider maybe spreading that education that you learned in the first slide and openly sharing your education that you're learning to the public, to your audience. And so rather than doing a post on your latest listing, maybe do a post on, how imputed interest might affect them if they're doing seller financing at 0%. And if you don't know what that means, that's okay. It's just one more thing to learn. And then once you learn it, go and share the knowledge. So it's great to share those market insights, but try to make sure your market insights are valuable to your investors. And that's how you're going to attract more investors to you when they see that, oh, he's sharing some good stuff. And that's who I want to talk to. All right. And one of the last things that from the relationship perspective that I think is super duper awesome when it comes to just considering the value of working with investors is this whole concept of the client investor partner conversion. And this aspect is so cool. As an investor myself and as an agent, people will come to me to want to acquire or sell their investment properties. And it's great. I love working as an agent, but oftentimes those conversations that we have will develop into further, we'll say, potential fruitful relationships. And so let's say somebody's coming to me as a client and I know they're interested in investing in a certain area because they're looking for a certain cash on cash return on their money. They want their money to continue to grow. But let's say I have an opportunity as an investor of a property that I've acquired in a different area, and I need private money. I need someone to help come invest with me in this deal. And so if I need investors, it only makes sense that I talk to the people that I know who are investors looking to grow their money. And so it becomes what I like to call the self-licking ice cream cone, this whole process of like being an agent that helps you as an investor and being an investor that helps you as an agent, and this whole kind of back and forth. And I separate the concept of client, investor, and partner because investor are people who are generally passive and giving you money to help invest in deals with you. Like personally, I syndicate deals. And so we'll buy large apartment complexes or we'll develop, like right now we're developing an RV park in Southern Mississippi. And we raised, a little over $2 million for that deal. So that was just little investors at a time. So an investor would give $25,000, $50,000. One investor invested $1 million in that deal. But these investors, they'll give us money and they're passive, very passive in the deal. But I've had other deals where my clients who came to me as clients at first, they have then since transitioned to calling me and say, hey, I got this deal. Do you want to partner with this deal? Do you want to partner on this deal with me? And so it's really cool to like have someone who I've never met before. I add value to them, whether they buy our house or not with me. It's fine. I'm still adding value to them because I know there's multiple fruitful options that these investors can have with you. And together you guys can grow. And it's a wonderful, wonderful process. And so the whole concept of client investor partner conversion is really, really fun and was unexpected to me as I've kind of grown up in this space here. All right. So we talked about how like becoming an investor agent can definitely help your knowledge. It will definitely be fruitful from the relationship standpoint. But let's talk about the business side next. So specifically in the business piece, how can becoming an investor agent expand your business? And maybe you're asking is, how do I expand my business if I want to become an investor agent? And the first thing to understand is there are multiple networking outlets for you to explore when it comes to expanding your business. There are so many different online forums that you can leverage. There's places like Bigger Pockets that we've started to partner more and more with Bigger Pockets within EXP, which has been awesome. And so within the online space, there's Facebook groups, there's, you follow people on TikTok and Instagram and all these things that you can kind of engage online to just be engaged in the investor space. There's RIA. So there's RIA is a real estate investor association. There's local RIAs that you should be able to join. They're typically more formal. Oftentimes you need to pay for them. And that's one option for you to jump in and just all of a sudden be part of a community of investors that you can then say, hey, I'm a new investor. I'm an agent. I'm here to help you guys out. Let me know what I can do for you. And then just offer support, add value to those around you. That's how you can expand your network and expand your business. Beyond like the formal RIAs, there are also meetups. Investors love their meetups. And by meetups, I mean it's typically more of a casual get together. You can check things like meetup.com or Bigger Pockets has their meetups advertised sometimes, or just kind of Google in the different area. There's different, semi-formal meetups in the area. And these meetups are great. And if there's not a meetup in your area, then you can start one. That's what I did 4 years ago. I started my own meetup. There were already a couple in the area, but I wanted to run one just the way I wanted to run it. I had 0 investments at the time. I had sold, I think, 1 house. So I was not an experienced agent when I started my meetup. But by starting my meetup, people started to look to me as this like position of authority, of knowledge authority, of whatever, even though I had no authority, backing whatsoever beyond the fact that I started this meetup. And it worked out really well. Through these meetups, I've been able to grow clients, grow my agent base, and it's just been fantastic. And so just realize getting yourself out there, rubbing, what I like to say, rubbing bellies with other agents and just physically meeting people. It's a fantastic way to grow your network and expand your business that way. The one thing I will say is as you start to work with investors, they have a fantastic investor network referral like mentality. If you treat your investors well, they will pass you to other investors without a doubt. And so it's pretty wonderful. One of my first investors, one of my first doctors that I worked with as an investor, I was explaining the tax benefits of short-term rentals and the loophole and cost segregation studies and accelerated depreciation. He was loving it. And he said, hey man, would you mind maybe just connecting with my doctor investor group next week? I'd love for you to come and speak to the group. We meet weekly, on a phone call or Zoom or whatever it was at the time. And I said, yeah, I'd love to. Sounds great. And so the next week I got on a call and there I was in front of 25 active doctor investors who had cash, wanted to spend, and they were just looking for places to put their money. And it was wonderful to be able to just, because I treated one person really well, they allowed me to be their person within their network and talk directly to everyone else. And it was a super fruitful relationship because of that. And so you just realize the referrals within the investor space can be more viral, we'll say, than maybe the traditional real estate space. And the last piece we'll talk about expanding your business is not just your sales business. Just realize as you work with these investors, hopefully you'll start to salivate and have this demand and intrinsic desire to start to be an investor yourself. Ultimately, that should be the goal. I like to say, you don't go to a vegetarian for advice on which beef tastes the best, right? People generally want to work with investor agents who are investors and who have their hands dirty within this space. And so as you build your empire, as you build your portfolio of investment property yourself, it's just going to help your investment. It's going to help your sales side as well. And as you do more sales with investors and learn these different techniques and these different strategies, it's going to help you on your investor side, your personal investor side, and growing your portfolio. Now realize one of the keys to long-term generational wealth is having as multiple passive income streams. And I know EXP has some wonderful outlets for that with their stock options, with rev share and amazing commission splits, but realize that it's important and incumbent upon you to take control of your future as well. Don't rely exclusively on EXP as a company to be your future income. Hopefully you guys are expanding out there. And one of the things you should be expanding into is what you're already doing on a daily basis is looking to the real estate market. There are tons of tax benefits that you can leverage as a real estate agent. Last year, even though I sold $50 million in real estate and made a bunch of money in gross commission earned, I ended up only paying like $3,000 in taxes, which is crazy, right? Like three grand in taxes versus the check that I got from EXP. is nuts. And the reason I was able to do that is because I was growing my empire at the same time that I was, doing my sales. And so there are a lot of benefits from building your empire. It'll give you the options down the road to also stop selling if you want to, right? It gives you the option. So if you are really growing this kind of passive portfolio, this passive income portfolio, it's just going to be one more kind of feather in the hat that you guys, once you're ready and you get to that point in your life where you want to kind of pull back from more of the active lifestyle of sales, you'll be able to do so comfortably versus, being that 95-year-old agent who's selling just because they have to. If you're 95 and you're selling, that's great. Hopefully you're doing it because you want to, not because you have to. So that's all what it comes down to. And so that's really it, guys. It comes down to the fact that I want you to understand that there are so many benefits, and we're just scratching the surface today because we're limited on time, of why you should be working with investors and how working with investors has benefited me personally, and I know can benefit you, whether you're a brand new agent, because that's how I started as a brand new agent, or you're an experienced agent and maybe you're stuck at only selling 5 million a year, 10 million a year, 1 million a year, 30 million a year. Wherever you are, I guarantee you working with investors can take you to another level. And so I wanted just to highlight that to you. Let's jump on the next slide here because we're coming down to the closing here. I do have a book coming soon, so if you guys are curious to learn more about how working with investors can benefit you, or specific tactical advice for how to work with investors and things you can do in that regard, my book coming out soon is going to be called Supersonic Real Estate. Just waiting for the publishing piece to get sorted. There's a QR code. You guys can go scan that if you want to go. That'll take you to my website, roargardner.com. I have a newsletter that you can attach to. If you sign up for the newsletter, we'll give you details for as the book comes out and stuff too. Hopefully the next month or two, we'll have that thing released. I'm super excited for that. It's been a work in progress for a while, and it's a passion of mine. So hopefully you guys will reach out. And if you got any questions on that, please let me know. I'm on all the socials if you want as well. I'm at Roar Gardner on all the socials if you want to find me there. By the way, Roar, that was my call sign. I didn't make that clear in the beginning. So like Maverick or Goose, as a fighter pilot, most people called me Roar. So half the people in my life who are my military half, they call me Roar. The other half of people in my life who are civilians call me Matt. If you guys reach out to me, feel free to call me whatever, Roar, Matt. I'm happy to refer to whatever. So again, once again, just to recap, I highly recommend, as new agents, experienced agents, whatever you're looking to do, if you've not considered working with investors, I highly recommend it. And the last bonus I'll throw out there right now is EXP is right now really pushing hard to look for experienced investor agents. The Revenos program that Mark Woodling is putting together has been awesome. They're throwing out listings from large organizations trying to unload a lot of their properties right now, and they're only looking to work with people who are investor agents. And so if you're interested in the Revenos program and interested in learning more about that, you can reach out to me or reach out to Mark Woodling for the EXP Revenos program. It's absolutely awesome. There's some massive potential in that program. That's all I got for you today, guys. I hope you do. If you got anything else, please let me know. Please reach out with any questions, and God bless. We'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.